Hello and welcome to the Matt's Movie Reviews podcast. I am your host, Matthew Pejkovic, and this is episode number 563, celebrating its 20th anniversary with special screenings on Friday, November 3rd at the Chevelle Cinema, Sydney, and Saturday, November 4th at the Astor Theatre in Melbourne is Fat Pizza, the film adaptation of the popular pizza comedy series that follows the misadventures of a Western Sydney pizza shop delivery driver. A gut-busting, energetic, and gloriously politically incorrect shot in the arm of a self-serious Australian cinema landscape, Fat Pizza still entertains as a big and cheesy comedy of little comparison. And joining me now to talk about the 20th anniversary of Fat Pizza is the film's star and director, Mr. Paul Fenech. Paul, I thank you so very much for joining me today.
No worries, man. Thanks for that very complimentary introduction,
Well, not at all. I was saying to you off air just before, I was in my early 20s when pizza first started. I used to watch it all the time on SBS, and I was trying to think back 20 years at what Australia was like. And at that time, it was a bit dour. We had the war on terror was full on. We had the big debate about illegal immigration. These are things that, pizza, the series and the movies never shied away talking about. And what I loved about watching pizza at that time, and I think a lot of people in my generation, it was really an outlet for us to really watch your comedies, watch your writing and your shows, and just laugh, just like during really, really bleak times. When you look back those 20 years, those 20 years, especially when the movie came out, was it always an objective for you to really just make something that people can not only laugh along with, but also laugh at what's going on in the world, what's going on in Australia? Because I think satire is a really big thing with your comedy.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I like to be a sort of reactive comedian just generally. When I do live comedy, I don't really do many jokes. I just work with the crowd and react. And I think it's the same with the way I write all the series and all the movies. It's, whatever's out there that we're all thinking about, I try and put it sort of into the shows. And, I'm always constantly looking at news and pop culture and seeing what's going on and what people are talking about and thinking about where things might go. The crazy thing is I write stuff that I think is like going to be a fantasy version of some reality stuff. And then it comes true, so they used to call me like a Chokradamus, because you'd write something in the show and then, 6 months later it became real, I mean, in Fat Pizza, for example, we did a whole thing about kind of Arab terrorism before 9/11, and there was one episode where Bobo blows up the tax office because he didn't like the tax bill. And it went to air the same day that somebody sent anthrax to the tax office, you know what I mean? So just a weird coincidence, but there have been so many like that,
What I find really interesting about the Fat Pizza movie is that the TV show, one of the things that I loved about it is that it had really had an electricity to it, a really energy. It's in the editing, it's in the camera angles. David Rudd, who you've worked with forever, so he's the editor of a lot of your stuff.
You're the only person that's ever given him a nod. So good on you, man. We have been working together and we're still working together.
Yeah, he's been doing all your stuff like up to this day, and he did the movie as well. And that energy and stuff, it's one thing where you do it in a 20-minute show, right? But when you have a 90-minute feature, how do you and David go about making sure that you can have that energy and that electricity kind of sustain itself through a feature film, and make sure that there isn't any type of lags in it? Because what I found, having recently watched Fat Pizza again, is that the energy and electricity is consistent throughout the whole film. There's no lag into it. And I think that's a real kind of a special thing to pull off there.
Oh, I just felt like I guess the writing style for Pizza was always, you didn't have too much of a storyline, just a lot of funny events, and the characters were kind of where the comedy was. So I think the movie sort of lent itself to that. And we just made it loosely about Bobo's wedding and all the other crazy stuff that sort of happened around the shop. And, I don't know. I just like fast stuff too. I get bored with a lot of dialogue. So I like to get to action more quickly than dialogue. And even today, when I cut things, like I've just done a new series for Seven Mate called Darradong Local Council, TV show, not movies, but because it's about politicians and we do the bludgeoning workers and the politicians being corrupt, but the politicians have to talk. That's where all their comedy is. And I struggle in the edit. I'm like, come on, they're talking too much. We've got to get to some visual humor here, So maybe I get bored in the edit. I just like things to be quick, and I don't like. I don't know. I've tried a traditional 3-act sort of movie when I made a thing called Dumb Criminals, and I love the movie. It had a lot of great comedy in it, but I preferred the other writing style where it was more like just lots of funny stuff with a loose kind of connection. I don't know. I think people just want to laugh in a comedy. They don't care about the story really. You don't. Your favorite comedies of all time. You go, wow, it was the best story I ever saw. Like it's just you just remember those 5 funny things that made you laugh so much. And I don't know if you know this, but when you laugh at something or you find something humorous, it triggers the same chemical reaction in your brain as love. So you're actually experiencing the love chemical when you are laughing at something. So you do get really deep into people when you make them laugh.
What I also love about Fat Pizza is the physical comedy. I'm a big fan of slapstick. I'm a big fan of like even, especially the classic kind of comedians, Laurel and Hardy's, Three Stooges, those kind of guys. I even love like Looney Tunes cartoons. I think they're still the best thing going around.
You just named all the influences to my editing style because I grew up with them too, and I think Three Stooges particularly have been a big influence for me. I love that 3 working class guys struggling against every bloody thing, and then the physical comedy. They're dated now, obviously, but there was a lot of social commentary in those shorts that they made about the working culture in America, about people getting ripped off and struggling and poor, and you see all the other stuff. But now Laurel and Hardy too. All the things you mentioned, Looney Tunes particularly. I think that's influenced definitely the way we use music in all of my shows or most of them, because the way Looney Tunes, every little physical thing had a piece of music to it. Every big reaction, every sort of post reaction they had on wah wah. If somebody did sort of come off second best, or if somebody wins, is like dun da da da. They really accentuate all the emotions with music. So yeah, we had the same influences, obviously.
And what I love about your physical comedy is, and something I always wanted to ask you, do you have a background in boxing in whatsoever? Because sometimes when I see some of the punches that you do, some of the choreography that you do, there seems to be kind of like really kind of traditional kind of boxing kind of dynamics today. Is that something that you've had in your background?
Yeah, when I was in high school, I did a lot of gymnastics, which helps me for the stunts, and I did boxing. I boxed for a while and had a fair few fights. And plus, there was a lot of street fighting back then too. So martial arts, all that. I trained it all. So over the years, but look, I do all my own stunts, so I still keep myself fit. So you got to kind of, I don't know. It was a short answer to your question is yes, I boxed for a while, so I do know how to throw it from the shoulder and slip and move and all that.
That's right, because I do a bit of it myself, and I always notice that when I watch it, like I notice the kind of the angles that you kind of bring to it in a way that you place your hands and everything. Sometimes you can see the little differences between like a novice and like someone who's actually done it before. Like I very much tell in your physical comedy where it comes from. Something I also want to talk about is that when I think about Fat Pizza and the stuff that you do, in my opinion, what you're doing is you're uplifting the tradition of the great Australian larrikin, all the way back to the times of like Barry McKenzie and David Cocker was doing like in that series, and I know a lot of these people who appeared in those kind of like 70s movies and such have appeared in some of your movies and some of your shows as well. When you look back on like the tradition of the great Aussie larrikin, do you think that's still around these days? Do you think that political correctness, do you think that, like, I hate to use the fucking word, but wokeness kind of like has almost kind of destroyed that? Or do you think that maybe that still is around, but it's found in other avenues?
No, absolutely, man. I kind of feel like I didn't even know what the word larrikin meant, and I looked it up, and I felt like it summed me up completely. So yeah, no, definitely. And it's going to be noisy for a second. Someone's just coming in the door. Just hold on a second. Come in, come on. Go somewhere quiet. I'm zooming. Sorry, listeners. Maybe just edit this out.
All good. I will.
Got a festival of sausage dogs here. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, it was really interesting too, because we obviously made pizza and people go ethnic comedian, and even though I just saw myself as reflecting what was going on in Australia and all the different kind of cultures, subcultures, faces, looks, the old, the young, the disabled, I like to include everybody in my stuff, not for the sake of it, because I think lots of different people's, I don't know, physicality and just the variation of Aussies makes for good comedy, But now it's diversity, So you actually have to stick people in just for the sake of it. I actually find it pretty offensive, to be honest, because you see a lot of pieces of media where what the hell is that person doing there for? I mean, it makes no sense,
Right.
like I think, I love movies that are cast and made with the characters have a good intention, that they make sense, but when you see things that don't make sense, it doesn't cut through, But as far as a larrikin goes, I probably am one of the last ones. I mean, I think Rodney Rood probably, at least with, like, I do live stand up, and I think I've sort of taken up where Rodney's left off. I don't know if he's retired or slightly retired, but I definitely like doing the sort of venues that he does. And it was weird after Housos, because before Housos, I was the ethnic comedian. And then after Housos, just because I was playing the same sort of character but wearing thongs and shorts, I suddenly became an Aussie comedian. I don't know what happened, but that part of the world, the Bogans of Australia, the Housos, really embraced me, gave me a lot of love. So somehow I transitioned from wog comedian to just general Australian comedian, even though I'm clearly very ethnic.
The Matt's Movie Reviews podcast is brought to you by Fandango. Get the latest showtimes, guaranteed tickets, browse Rotten Tomatoes scores, and watch trailers with Fandango, the #1 movie ticketing app. The Matt's Movie Reviews YouTube channel is brought to you by TeePublic. TeePublic is the world's largest marketplace for independent creators to sell their work on the highest quality merchandise. With over 1.2 million designs, TeePublic is sure to have something you love. The Matt's Movie Reviews podcast is brought to you by Gift Card Store. Australia's leading provider of gift cards, Gift Card Store offers a variety of prepaid MasterCard and Visa cards in physical or e-card format. You can even design your own card as the ultimate personalised gift. With Gift Card Store, you can gift the gift you know they will love. Please support Matt's Movie Reviews on Patreon. Get access to exclusive content, request movie reviews and top 10 lists, and help support my work. Please click on the Patreon link in the description below. I just wanted to ask as well, like when I was looking into like your background, the way that you came up in the industry, you were doing stuff at ABC, started from the bottom, worked your way up, some producing, some directing, then over you went to SBS and you're doing your own stuff in between there. And now here you are now, you're very much, Paul Fenech is very much an institution in Australia in regards to its movies, and it's like a TV series as well. But it's interesting in the last 10 years how kind of like the way people kind of like get the word out through traditional means. The traditional media isn't there anymore. Now it's YouTube, now it's Facebook, it's Superwog, it's Sushi Mango. They're doing it through that way. In that context, do you think that there is still a place, especially in cinema, for the Aussie comedy? Because I don't remember the last time there was an actual Australian comedy kind of like that was equal to like the humor and to like the subject matter that you tackle, because a lot of times the stuff that I see that tackles that stuff is on YouTube. It's like 10-minute shorts. It's on Facebook. It's like 1 minute kind of clips. I'm really curious about what you think is the future of that type of comedy in a cinema landscape.
Look, it's very difficult because I think we're hitting a period where it's either the really big stuff is kind of happening, or it's little stuff on the internet. And I think one of the bummers, I mean, Sushi Mango sort of diversifying, which is good, but I think the bummer for YouTube people is because they don't come out of formal media, it's very difficult for them to translate their stuff into formal media like movies or whatever, because they're only working in that sort of, joke to camera kind of environment, whereas I was lucky enough to do direct a million things before I sort of got to, make comedy stuff. I was documentaries, ads, music videos. So you always learn as a director, but I was pretty, I don't know, at least I had something to kind of, some skills to help the media work. Whereas those guys, they've just got a lot of it's just a sort of straight camera and some basic jokes, difficult for me. Like I should have jumped into the social media thing a bit more. I've always been a little bit in it, but I didn't really see it was going to be as big as it has become. I thought traditional media would always, and the traditional marketing and all that would stay, but it's all changed and I missed the boat a little bit. I didn't get into YouTube and all that. Anyway, I'm too old to change my ways. I try a little bit, but it's weird because I know a lot of content creators who are popular, but they fall into this trap where people want their stuff so much, they pump out so much material in such a short space of time they burn out after a while, because 2 or 3 years of just putting things up every day is kind of the equivalent of my career over 20 years. You know what I mean? The amount of views and hits they're getting is just being condensed. So I don't know. It's interesting, and you just do your best to try and sort of go with the times, I guess. I don't know. There's all the AI stuff interests me now. All that deep fake stuff and all that. I mean, there's part of me that just wants to go to China and make like all my favorite movie sequels without the consent of the actors. Like I'll make Terminator 7 and I'll make the First Blood 2, not Rambo 2, but First Blood 2, or the Godfather 3, the way I wanted to do it. We'll just do it all AI and pay the Chinese in the green screen, and we'll just clone all the rest of it, and I'll hide in China and make some money, and all the fans will be happy, but the stars won't be. I'm just joking. It does interest me, though. The ethnic kind of, maybe the maverick businessman ethnic factor, just thinking, make some bucks under the table in China. I'm not going to do that. Don't worry.
That sounds like a good idea for another series. Like an Australian interpreter goes over to Asia to try to create AI content using copyright material. That sounds like a great show.
I'd rather do it in real life, to be honest.
Looking back 20 years, I know that you've done so many things since the times of pizza and Fat Pizza. Your Housos and Dumb Criminals, and now you got this new show coming down Channel 7. But when you look back in 2003 at the time of Fat Pizza, what type of memories come back for you, Paul Fenech? What type of feelings do you have looking back in that material today?
Look, it's how would I say it? It's bittersweet. I was a bit more naive back then, and I'd been a sort of director for a long time, and I had a kind of young family, and then that whole explosion of, whatever you want to call it, fame or success. It took a while to kind of work it out. I mean, I've always been sort of like more of a worker than a kind of a performer. So all the things that go with fame take a while to get used to, and you got to make sure that you don't become a first class wanker like many do. I don't know. Memories back then. It was exciting, I suppose. Very, very exciting. It was a real dream to have my own movie up there. I mean, I was a little boy and I always loved cinema, and I always wanted to be in the movies, but I didn't think growing up in Australia, not looking like, Craig McLachlan, that I'd get a chance, So it was pretty bizarre to see a head like this in the cinema. It's given me some of my most proud moments in my career. So, and dreams that were just dreams actually came true. And how magic's that, can't take any of that away. It's fantastic. I remember probably one of my favorite things was watching Fat Pizza, the movie, at the drive-in, because I spent my whole teens at the drive-in. It was my favorite.
Bass Hill, right?
Yeah, Bass Hill, that's the one, man. And they actually played it just as part of, the general release, and I sort of snuck in and watched it, and it was great, So I don't know. I'll tell you what, man, I've been so lucky. I've got to live all my dreams probably because of Fat Pizza. So whoever in the universe let me have it, thank you very much,
So for everyone out there listening, Friday, November 3rd at the Chevelle Cinema, Sydney, Saturday, November 4th at the Astor Theatre in Melbourne. Special 20th anniversary screenings of Fat Pizza. Paul Fenech will be there as well for Q&As afterwards. And I really recommend people check out this movie again. I watched it again a couple of days ago. It's just as good as I remembered it all the way back in the day. And to have it back on the big screen again and share it with an audience to talk about, I'm sure it's going to be a thrill for you.
There's going to be a whole bunch of the other original, performers from Fat Pizza there. I won't spoil a surprise if you turn up, and they'll probably want to say hello too. So, no, it's trippy, man. 20 years later, people still care about it. It's weird. I don't know. I don't know what to say. Thank you to the people who watch and gave me this career. Legends. And unlike many others, I certainly do appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. So, to all those chocos out there and bogans and whoever the rest of you, whatever you're labeled, thank you.
Well, Paul, we all appreciate you as well, mate. Thank you so much for the hard work you put in. And we can't wait to see not only Fat Pizza back on the screens, but also what you're going to, this new council show you're going to have. What was it called again on Channel 7? Darradong Local Council. It's on 7, mate, the digital channel, or 7 Plus if you don't want to sort of sit around waiting every week. So, awesome. But look, it gives it to the local councils, and if you like my other stuff, you'll love it. It's got a lot of familiar faces, so and
it's funny, the two leads in it are pretty much the same as Fat Pizza many years ago. George Capanaris, who played the Ronald McDonald clown, as the main counselor, and I play the dodgy worker. So, and the whole ensemble of my stuff, they're all there. So, if you like it, if you've liked Swift and Shift and you like How's a Pizza, you'll like this, I would say.
Awesome, Paul, mate. Thank you so very much for your time today. And man, best of luck for you with the new show and with your screenings coming up, mate.
Good on you, champion. Thank you so much for the time, huh?
Thank you for watching the Matt's Movie Reviews channel. Please subscribe for more reviews, podcast interviews, and exclusive content.